This is Mitch. With today, I'm going to do a solo cast on passive income. People throw around the word passive with not much regard. To truly be passive is a really it's a neat trick because it's hard to find truly passive stuff. A lot of people go, well, rent houses are passive. Yeah, rent houses are passive. My butt. They're not passive unless you're hiring someone to take care of all of it, and then they're taking all your income. So what's the point? A lot of the landlords out there wish that they could make 10 or 12%. So they go out there and they buy houses, and on paper they're supposed to make 15 or 18% ROI, or even just 12 or 10% ROI, return on their investment. But at the end of the day, the expenses eat them up. They don't make anything. It's a forced savings program, and you're waiting for appreciation to drive the value of the house up way beyond what you owe on the house. Or as you're paying the house down, the appreciation's going up. So a lot of people buy into being a landlord, or buy into the buy and hold strategy, thinking that they're going to make 10% or 12% or better. And it usually doesn't turn out that way at all. I speak from experience. I had 25 rent houses. They were killing me, and I wasn't making a dime. I could have been the worst landlord in the world, or it's just not a great process. Because when you're a landlord, you're responsible for everything from the back fence to the front mailbox and everything in between. Every window, every doorknob, every garage door, every sprinkler head, shower head, hot water heater, stove, oven, refrigerator, AC, especially if you live in a hot place like Texas. So anyways, we want to talk about being really, really passive. How you do that is you loan your money out. So there's a lot of people that should be into this and aren't, and it's because the institutions and the banks and the money, the power brokers, the money, financial advisors, they're not telling you that you could easily loan out your money yourself and make, way bigger rates of return. And in a way, you can't say guaranteed because that's not right, but very secure loans, depending on what your collateral is. So what happens when you loan your money? You loan your money out, and if you're just doing it on a handshake and hoping you get paid back, really bad deal. The chances of those things working out are not really good. You need a collateral-based loan, which means you're going to loan your money and you're going to get a lien position, hopefully a first lien position, on a piece of something that's valuable that you can collect on or take from if you don't get paid. So a collateral-based loan is the best. I personally like real estate. Why? Well, you can loan on a car, but cars can drive away to God knows where. Cars can get wrecked into trees and bridges. Cars can be abused and have the engines blow up, and they're not worth much. Cars are depreciating asset. Okay, a depreciating asset worth less and less and less every year. These are all the reasons why I prefer to borrow on real estate. Real estate is tangible. It's not going anywhere physically, and it's not going anywhere trend-wise. Everyone needs real estate or a place to live or a place to run their business out of. So I don't think real estate's going out of style anytime soon. They're not making any more of it. So there's only so much dirt and earth on this planet, and they're not making any more of it. And then there's always that need to live and prosper. I mean, almost everybody has a tie to some piece of real estate, be it their home or their business or the place they rent. I mean, it's hard to survive on this planet without occupying a piece of real estate. I like the tangible aspect of it because when I loan on real estate, it's can be documented and I can get a lien on it. And if I don't get paid as agreed, I can get that piece of real estate as to make me whole, to make up for the fact that I didn't get paid the way I was promised on paper. Now, all this has to be documented, but the biggest thing about loaning against real estate is you have to have an advantageous LTV, or loan to value, that is advantageous to you, the lender. Like if a house is worth $200,000 or $250,000, let's say 200 for easy math. House is worth 200,000. If you loan $250,000 on this house and it's only worth 200,000, this is probably not a good deal. As a matter of fact, it's not a good deal. Because if you don't get paid as agreed, whatever that agreement is, you're supposed to get paid every month, and you're supposed to get X amount interest, annual interest rate, and this is what you're supposed to collect every month, you know, for X amount of years. And if you don't get paid as agreed, you get that house instead of payments. You get to foreclose on the house, or if the person who borrowed the money from you has got any ethics at all, if they can't pay you and it starts getting out of hand, then they need to walk the deed over to you and deed the property to you as agreed. Because when you do a collateral only loan, then you have the right to get paid as agreed, or you need to be given that property to make up for the fact that you didn't get paid as agreed, to make up for the default on the payments. So, you know, this works best. You know, not everybody's going to just walk over and hand you the deed because they're honest and come to the conclusion that they can't pay. Most borrowers I know will think, well, I'm going to hit it big here in a little bit if you'll just hold off, if you'll just hold off, if you'll just hold off. And, you know, 8 or 9 or 10 or a year later, they still haven't hit it big. They still haven't made enough to pay you. And in fact, they're behind more and more and more. The late charges, the interest charges, the payments, everything's just getting out of hand. And the past due taxes and the past due insurance on the property is all mounting up on your side as the lender if you don't get paid. So we want to have a first lien position so that we can foreclose quickly, and we want to be in a state that's probably non-judicial, which means you don't have to go in front of a judge necessarily to foreclose. You just send your certified letters and notices, and either you get made whole or you don't. Now, there's always the possibility that your borrower hires an attorney or files bankruptcy and then strings things out a little bit. But this is why it's super important to have a good spread when you start figuring out the loan to value, or the LTV. Now, let's say you take that same $200,000 house and you loan $75,000 in the first lien position. It's worth $200,000 and you're only loaning $75,000. It's worth $200,000, you're only loaning $75,000, you have a first lien, and if they don't pay you back that $75,000 as agreed, then you get a $200,000 house to make up for that default. Now you're talking. So, you know, make sure you're in the right state. Make sure you've chosen a state where if you have to foreclose on your lender, it's a reasonably short period of time. And, you know, there's Texas and Georgia probably have, and maybe Mississippi, have the fastest foreclosure processes in the planet. I know Texas and Georgia, their foreclosure process and real estate lien law mimic each other. We like to say in Texas that Georgia just copied us because why invent the wheel? But if you're in Georgia, they'll tell you that Texas copied them because why invent the wheel? Reinvent the wheel. So if you're, we run about 45 days. If you're Johnny on the spot, hit the timing just right and don't miss a 21-day notice. You know, you have to give notice 21 days. There's rules. And if you miss that window, you got to wait a whole nother month so you can get that 21-day, meet that 21-day requirement. So typically in Texas and Georgia, it's going to take about 60 to 90 days. Just depending on the timing of how things fall. 60 to 90 days to take someone's property away from them because they didn't pay you is a reasonable length of time. I've been doing it for over 2 decades, and it's painful, but usually by the time I get the property back, I have such good LTV, loan to value, that when I do resell that property to someone, whether I sell it on payments or I sell it outright, I'm going to get made whole plus, 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 plus. In fact, you want to set up your loans so that the worst thing that can happen to you return-wise is that you get paid on time. Let's say, like, if you get paid on time, you're going to make 10% on your money. But if you get that $200,000 house back because they didn't pay you on time for that $75,000 loan, now you're going to make some real money, some big money. So that's how you want your loans to be. It's like, you pay me, I'm really happy. You don't pay me, I'm ecstatic. I'm ecstatic. Now, there's going to be a little pain and a little dry spell there for a minute, 60, 70, 80, 90 days. Even if it had to go 6 months or a year because they filed a bankruptcy. Still, when that process is over, you're going to get healed up very well. So the key to super passive income is to understand that most things that you're going to invest in are not that passive if you really have control of them. Loaning money in the stock market is very passive. You have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow, and you have no way to stop whatever it is that's going to happen. You can't defend yourself against the stock market hardly. Now, I understand you can buy puts and pushes, and I not even know all the lingo, but I know you can hedge your bets certain ways, but really, there's not a lot to do. Loaning money is much simpler. I either get paid or I get that piece of collateral right over there. Now, the key is make sure that piece of collateral is worth the pain and the effort you're going to have to go through if the person doesn't pay you as agreed. Your borrower doesn't pay you as agreed. Just make sure that piece of property just suits you just fine. Who's loaning their money out? So I have lots of private lenders. My whole business functions off of private lenders for the most part. I am very bankable. I have millions of dollars worth of bank loans. And there's a time and a place for a bank who will loan me money at a much lower interest rate than my private lenders loan me money for. Okay? But there's a place and time for the private lender, and there's a place and time for the banks. Private lenders work best to start the ball rolling, to buy that rickety house that's all dilapidated and leaning and not right for a song. We're going to buy this property for a song, but a private lender is the person to borrow that money from. Trying to get a bank to loan you money on what that house could be and what it will look like in 60 days is not very fast. We need quickness when we're in the real estate investing arena. We need to be quick. It's very hard to steal houses in slow motion. And I use the word steal very loosely. The point is, most deals that sell at major discounts have a lot of back pressure on them. There's some clock ticking, and when that clock ticks its final minute or second off, then the person that owns the property is going to get zero. They're just going to lose it, and they're going to get absolutely nothing for it. And the closer that timeline gets to the deadline, the more apt the seller is to sell at a major discount. And that's where private lenders come in. And think of yourself as, just close your eyes and think of yourself. If you were to loan money, imagine someone like Mitch Stephen calling you and go, look, I got 4 days before this foreclosure and I need X amount of dollars for this property. First questions out of your mouth ought to be, what is the property worth? So you can figure out what your LTV is, your loan to value. You're loaning X and the property is worth Y. How much is Y? and if there's a good enough spread. What's a good enough spread? I don't ever let my lenders into a deal over 65% of whatever I'm going to sell this property for. Okay? And I have formulas on what these properties are worth. They're based on the rents. I back into the rents and we figure out exactly what I can owner finance this property for. And then I never borrow more than 65% of this number up here, the end all sales price, the market sales price. And I say market, I mean market for owner financed houses. And I average only borrowing 58%. So if I'm going to owner finance a house to my buyer at $100,000, I average borrowing $58,000 from a private person and giving them a first lien. So imagine what that looks like from my lender's point of view, from my private lender's point of view. He's loaning $58,000 on average. At the most, he would loan $65,000 on a property that's worth $100,000. That's a pretty calculated and low risk. It'd be pretty difficult not to be made whole. I mean, think about it. Even if you loan at 65% or $65,000 on a $100,000 property, property values would have to drop 35% before the property was worth exactly what you loaned on it. You haven't even got a loss yet, okay? So think about that. So who are the people that are loaning money to people like Mitch Stephen? A lot of the people that loan me money were really enthusiastic about the idea of being a house flipper or being a real estate investor. And then they quickly learned after a deal or two that it's a major endeavor. It's become a science, finding the houses, selling the houses. You have a lot of competition out there, and it's a science, and you have to really get into it to be competitive and to make money. And you have to know your business. You have to become an expert, or you have to have an expert on your side, and you have to take the deep dive into this stuff. A lot of the people that loan me money went in wanting to be the investor, figured out that this is work, and decided it was more work than they wanted to do. And then they decided to loan out their money at that point. A lot of them were landlords that thought they were going to make 10, 12, 14% rate of return buying this house and renting it out, only to figure out that they lost money at the end of the year. They didn't even make zero, they made negative. And so, because same thing, being a landlord, you got to know your game, and you have to know who you're up against and who's in your house, because some of these people will tear your house to the ground and walk out. They know more about the law than you'll know because they've been through it 100 times. You have to know about screening. You have to know about income calculation, how to verify jobs and background and criminal history and all this stuff. And then make an assessment whether you want to take a chance on this person that's going to go in your house. And again, it's a science. So a lot of ex-landlords loan to me. A lot of landlords that were very successful loan to me because they have all these properties. They go and they sell them all, and they got this big amount of money in the bank. And then they're used to cash flow instead of, and they understand that they don't want to spend their principal, because principal, eventually, if you keep spending your principal or your retirement money, is eventually going to disappear. It keeps getting lower and lower and lower and lower, and then you look up one day and you just don't have much of that left. So they want to invest it and live off the interest income or the return on their money and keep that money the same or bigger every year. I have a theory. If your money's not growing, it's losing. There is no break even. There is no standstill where I'm at. Your money's either making money or your money's losing money, but there is no neutral. If you think there's a neutral, just people think I can just go to sleep, I'll be in neutral. Well, you're still breathing. Now, as long as you're breathing, you're going to need to replace some energy somewhere, sometime. And there is no neutral. We're either getting ahead or falling behind. The other kind of people that loan me money are retired people who want to stay retired. Retired people that do not want to have a minimal friction lifestyle. Minimal friction. They just want to play golf. They want to travel with their wife. They got some people handling their books and writing their checks, or everything's automatic withdrawal. They just want money in and money out, and it all systematized and ready to go. They don't want a job. They've already had a job. They earned their freedom. They have enough retirement money that they don't need to work, and they're not going to work anymore. The other kind of people that loan me money are professionals, doctors, lawyers, people like professional athletes that just do so well financially at what they do that it doesn't pay them to get their focus broken into fragments, or to take their eye off the ball, to quote an athletic term. It doesn't pay for them to do anything but what they do. They make really outstanding money. And then it's so exhausting or so intensive on them that when they do have some time, the last thing they want to do is get into another business that they have to learn and watch over and take the rest of their time. They need their spare time to recoup and to enjoy their life and to enjoy their money.